proud sponsor here today. We're an insurtech company delivering a business system and digitalization solution for the Nordic life and insurance sector. And just like Hannah said, I'm going to take the opportunity today to talk a bit on a sort of high level, macro level about, give you a market outlook, talk a bit about digital trends, and introduce you to the concept of Insurance 4.0. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Exciting, right? Cool. Yeah, because we're actually living in very exciting times. Many say that we're about to take the leap into the fourth industrial revolution. You know, the first and the second one was all about utilizing the power of water and steam for mechanization, electricity for automatic assembly lines, and now we're into the third industrial revolution, and that is sort of characterized by smart IT system, computerized and physical robots. So what is the fourth industrial revolution about? Well, the manufacturing industry, they've been talking about Industry 4.0 for a number of years. It's about the smart factory, being able to utilize information from sensors, Internet of Things, products, machines, assembly lines, and using that smart information to be able to make smart decisions with machine learning and AI, and eventually even be able to build an autonomous system around this. So Industry 4.0, if we take that into an insurance context, that will be Insurance 4.0, right? So there are a number of digital forces that are sort of enabling this digital transformation into Insurance 4.0. We have everything from known entities like mobility, we have cloud, we have Internet of Things, we have big data analytics and AI and robotics. All those digital forces forming some kind of perfect storm that will have an impact on every aspect of running a business and running a company. It will have an impact on the channels, it will have an impact on the way we model our business, it will have a significant impact on the business processes, enabling a high level of automation. It will allow us to develop new kinds of products and services. It will allow us to reach totally new kind of customer segments in an efficient way, underserved segment that we haven't been able to reach before. And it of course have an impact on our internal workplace as well, with office productivity tools and stuff like that, high levels of automation. And as you all know, the speed of technology change is just ridiculous. It's really picking up, and the speed is unbelievable. And the business isn't really picking up. There is a gap between the opportunities that lies within new technology and the ability for the business organizations to pick things up. And this is a challenge that we need to address going forward. And we think that it's a known fact that the pace of tech change has never been as fast as it is today. But it is also a bit mind-boggling, since this is accelerating. It's also true that the pace of tech change will never be as slow as it is today, right? So we can be stressed that a lot of things is happening now that we can't really keep up with, but eventually it's going to go faster and faster. So we have to get adopted or get used to being able to adopt technology in a more faster pace than we have done historically. So what does this mean for the insurance industry? Well, the key in all this, and this is nothing new of course, that everything tomorrow will and need to be data-driven in a much higher degree or degree than it is today. And for the insurance industry, this means that the mechanism of insurance has historically been pretty reactive, I would say. You sign an insurance and then you hope that it's not occurring, but if an injury or an accident happens, you get a claim process and you pay out money. The whole process as such, the whole mechanism is very reactive. But the promise with utilizing a fully data-driven sort of mechanism around this is that we can flip things around a bit, that we can allow ourselves to have much more proactive business model. We can use the huge amount of data to make predictions, the huge data sets to make better predictions of the future. We can then utilize this knowledge that we gather to be able to provide preventive suggestions and advice for our customers. So instead of waiting for the accident or the injury to happen, we can utilize the power of big data to be able to be more proactive and preventive in our customer relations. The big challenge, of course, is to be able to balance this in a good way. A lot of the information that we're talking about, especially within life and pension, is highly sensitive data. So we get back to that later here. It's a matter of balancing that trust with the customer to be able to utilize this in a good way. So data-driven business and digitalization. Where is the industry today? Many say that the insurance industry is lagging behind a bit. It's a bit immature and conservative when it comes to digitalization and digital transformation. And I would say that that is partly true, but it's partly a bit unfair as well. This is an example of the life and pension industry and the fairly complex ecosystem and value chains that you have to be connected to, even to be able to operate. It's baseline. This is not easy, it's super complex. It requires a high degree level of integration, being able to connect it to various stakeholders in this value chain. And I would say when it comes to digitization and automation, I would say that the industry is actually fairly advanced when it comes to digitization. A number of standardized ways of integrating safely and trustfully with a number of the stakeholders in its value chain. So from this perspective, I would say that the industry is fairly advanced. But when it comes to digitalization, which more than is the customer-centric integration part of this, yes, then there are definitely some things that needs to be done. There are other industries that are much more advanced than the insurance industry. But what's going to become a bigger challenge tomorrow is it won't be enough just to manage and cope with this internal ecosystem within life and pension or with insurance as an ecosystem. But the opportunity and the challenge, since everything needs to be data-driven, it's all about being able to tap into relevant data. And all relevant data doesn't reside only within the insurance ecosystem. So we have to look further ahead. We have to tap into relevant information that exists in blending ecosystem. We have insurance in the middle. We're insurance-focused guys, so we put that in the middle here. Lifestyle data. I read yesterday 60% of all adults in US are wearing a smartwatch. Every one of us is wearing a smartphone. There are some really interesting data sets out there that will be interesting for an insurance context, for be able to personalize preventive advice, but also use for individual pricing, individual risk assessment. There are some life insurance companies in EU specifically that they're not selling life insurance products without a smartwatch. It's a necessity, it's mandatory. We're not there yet in Europe and Sweden, but eventually that's going to be sort of a really interesting blending ecosystem that we need to adapt to, we need to have integrations with. Another neighboring ecosystem is, of course, health. When it comes to life and health, medical journals, health explanations, health risk assessment, that kind of medical information, medical history, that will be super interesting, of course, for personalized offering and preventive risk management. We have genetics. Might sound like science fiction, but it's super simple today to order a DNA test over the internet. You get a capsule, you spit in it, you send it back. 2 weeks later, you get a fairly detailed analysis of your ancestry and if you have a specific risk of catching certain diseases or illnesses. And today, this is a bit of an unfair competition between the customer, the consumer, and the insurance company, because I can get a test and get the information that I have significant risk of catching a critical disease. The next day I can go in and sign life insurance. So I have an advantage, information advantage as a customer today that I don't think will be viable tomorrow. So genetics information potentially is also relevant information that we will tap into. Within life and pension, specifically pension, of course, being able to get a 360 view of the financial situation of the customer, being able to tap in relevant information from the banking and wealth management side. Not only look at the pension part, but long-term savings, loans, accounts, to get a holistic 360 view of the customer. And of course, all the digital footprint that we leave out on the internet in terms of the way we shop on the internet and with the way we navigate around. Some really interesting information that will be useful for risk profiling, personalization, of course. But as you see, in this picture we have insurance in the middle, and that's because we typically saw the insurance focused here. But I think Considering what has happened in the afterbirth of Cambridge Analytica, the data breaches of Facebook, the way Facebook have shared information in various suspicious channels, and the various numbers of data breaches, I think it's super safe to say that in tomorrow it's going to be very much in control of the customer who that person wants to share his personal information with. It's not the insurance company that will have control over the information that will be utilized for risk assessment or personalization. The customer needs to be willing to share that information with us. So it's a matter of trust. Customer-controlled information sharing is happening today. We have GDPR. You're very well familiar with that, what that means. Customer control of data, portability, the right to be forgotten, to put the consumer in control over the data sharing. It's happened within the banking. It's a huge paradigm shift. One of the bank's biggest assets has been customer data. It's no longer exclusively the right of the banks, but with PSD2, Payment Service Directive, the initiative is going back to the customer, saying that the customer should have the possibility to decide which information I want to share with which stakeholder or party in this ecosystem. It's no longer the exclusive right of the banks. So will this happen in the insurance industry? There are no legislation being passed on around this today, but of course this is something that eventually will hit the insurance industry as well. There are some initiatives. There is a UK initiative named the Open Insurance Initiative, but that's basically targeting sort of the more the technical aspect. Design standardized formats and standardized way of exchanging information. But we can assume that the same thing as has happened with PSD2 will eventually happen and hit the insurance industry as well. So we need to be prepared that the information that we have within the insurance system is not exclusively the incumbent's information, but it's the customers, and the customer decides who they want to share this with. So data sharing is not a localized business, right? We share information with the global players, the big techs, the Amazon, the Google, the Facebooks, right? So then you would assume if the successful insurance company of tomorrow will be someone that is really good at utilizing big sets of data that is spread out globally. Wouldn't you think that the successful insurance company of tomorrow will be a global one? There are some trends showing that this is something that has been discussed for many, many years, and it still haven't really happened within the insurance industry. It's very much a localized business still. But there are some trends pointing towards that we can definitely see globalization happening. We have, someone mentioned, we have the huge players in China, totally built up as tech companies, with Ping An as an example. They're hugely successful in China and are now launching in Asia. We have Amazon as an example. They're setting up a price comparison site in UK. And we have Lemonade, the famous insurance company in US, backed up by Alphabet, the mother of Google, and they have announced that they are launching globally as well this year. So we have definitely a globalization trend. But at the same time, if we look at the local business, we rather see an opposite trend, that we have a clear localization, consolidation trend from the life and pension industry. Skandia selling off the Danish operation, we have Danica in Denmark selling off SEB Pension, and we have Danske Bank selling off Danica Pension here in Sweden. So here we tend to see, especially in life and pension, we rather see sort of a consolidation trend. So there is a globalization trend and a consolidation, localization trend in parallel. Because if we look at the industry and the critical sort of driving forces that are putting pressure on the industry today, I think the first one is customer relevancy. This industry has some challenges when it comes to building long-term relationship with our customers. It's a long time between customer interactions, especially again within life and pension, into years until you meet or interact with your customer again. So that means it's super critical that you, with those moments of truth, when you actually get the opportunity to meet the customer, when it is signing an agreement, when the claims process, the payment, whatever, there are a few really important critical processes, and then you need to be super tight with the customer. You have to be able to offer a very easily consumable, effortless experience at those touch points. And also, you have the possibility to use new technology to offer complementary services as well, as a complement to the traditional services. So that is happening to build tighter relationships with the customers. The industry is also under a lot of pressure when it comes to pricing. The pricing on life and pension insurance has been dramatic the last few years, and that means that the industry needs to run a number of efficiency operations to make sure that they have a really slim administrative process to be able to offer really competitive pricing on their products. We also have a number of customer enlightenment sites. We have Konsumenternas Min Pension as an example. Anders is going to speak in a few minutes, which are allowing the customer to make better informed decisions about those fairly complex products. We also have some initiatives from the EU to forming sort of a harmonized EU market. We will also put a pressure on the industry, higher competition. So that is happening, and all those elements are partly connected to what we call Industry 3.0, is to run the business in a more efficient way and build tighter relationships with the customer. So in addition to this, we also have the flooding of disruptive technology. Internet of Things, we have sensors, we have genetics. Those huge amounts of data can be used for robotics and machine learning. We also have new sort of technologies that allow us to interact with customers in different ways. We have chatbots, we have text-to-speak, speech-to-text, we have AR, we have virtual reality. Fantastic capabilities that will allow us to interact with customers in a different way. And we have technologies like blockchain that will potentially allow us to work with assets and values over the internet in a totally different way. And all those capabilities are sort of enablers for moving the industry and the companies towards Industry 4.0. But that's not all. I mean, if that was it, that would be sort of a significant sort of critical mass to handle for the companies. But they also have to handle the constant flood of new regulations and new compliance. We want to talk about the compliance tsunami that is constantly flooding the industry. We have MiFID, IDD, GDPR, PSD2. We have IFRS 17 waiting around the corner. And everything together, of course, means that the industry is under a lot of pressure. And the industry historically has had the financial muscles and the organization to be able to run most of those change initiatives internally. But with everything going on at the same time, the traditional companies, they just don't have the bandwidth to cope and to manage and drive all those dimensions at the same time. And that has really opened up for a paradigm shift in the industry, where an ecosystem of complementary partners, an insurtech ecosystem, has arrived. It started off in US, of course, US first with everything, and so also in this. A number of new startups utilizing new technology to empower existing insurance company, but sometimes coming up with disruptive solutions that will challenge the existing traditional players. The same thing is happening in the Nordics. Mikael mentioned that we had the report that was launched in 2017, which was the first attempt. We're now working on a reviewed one. But what we can see is that there is definitely sort of a flourishing, living ecosystem around insurtech, and it's growing. You can see that the gravity is typically towards the personalization and the distribution parts, and that's because that's the most low-hanging fruits. That's the sort of easy, accessible parts of the insurance value chain. But we now see that there are some insurtechs that are addressing the more complex areas within the value chain as well, and that is really exciting. And from Italo perspective, we have the opportunity of serving 10 of the biggest companies within insurance and life and pension. So we have the opportunity and also the responsibility here to help drive the industry in this innovative journey. We think that we can help doing that by allowing open APIs and standardized interfaces that will partly allow insurtech companies to easily connect to our platform and thereby be able to reach all of our customers. And the opposite, we'll be able to help our customers to do an inventory and sort out which interesting insurtech companies that will be out there that can help sort of accelerate the incumbents business. So we hope that we will be able to play a significant role in driving innovation in this ecosystem. And just to finish things off, the industry is on a journey, setting off for Industry 4.0, and we think that to be able to cope with this really is going to be a challenge, it's going to be tough. So to be able to do that, we think that it's mandatory, necessary that you have a stable and flexible platform, an IT platform that will allow you to do that. And the baseline of this is cost efficiency, because if you can provide cost-efficient operation and cost-efficient sort of IT services, then you're not being able to be competitive in this business. Also, being able to consolidate and absorb legislation in a standardized way, cost-efficient way, instead of all the entities, all the organizations having to do this individually. So cost efficiency is key, but then of course in an ever-changing environment, agility and flexibility will be key as well. Being able to quickly launch and develop new products and be able to launch those in existing channels and in new kinds of digital channels. Openness and transparency, again, will be key. We will operate in an ever-changing ecosystem, so having open APIs and standardized integration to those relevant stakeholders in the ecosystem is also going to be key for being able to drive innovation in an efficient way. And so the baseline will be cloud. And that might not sound like a sort of a bold statement, but the insurance industry is fairly late into the cloud, partly driven by unclear recommendations from the supervision, Finansinspektionen. But I think that we now have a clear picture of that the cloud is an approved way forward. And cloud is not simply the best way forward just from a cost efficiency perspective, but more so if we are to tap into modern technology and the technology of tomorrow, that will be delivered via the cloud. So you need to have a platform that is cloud secure to be able to tap into this exciting technology of tomorrow. And I just want to finish off, and it's a good handshake with Christine, who's taken over. We are very proud of all our customers, but want to specifically highlight here STP. They've done a fantastic journey the last couple of years in that transformation, and they're very much living our strategy and living our vision. They're using our platform for system consolidation and automated processes, cost efficiency, agility and flexibility. They're using our platform for quickly enabling new digital channels, and they're using portal capabilities, partnership to be able to introduce new interesting technology in a fast pace. And they're also interested in cloud. It's in brackets. We're under discussion, but they're very curious and interested in moving forward in this area. And with that, I think I'm finished.